future of America. The Democrats are desperate to turn the tide and win over last-minute voters. But President Biden just screwed up big time with another out-of-touch remark.
No more drilling. There is no more drilling. I haven't formed any new drilling. That was before I was president. We're trying to work on that, get that done.
That comes just 2 days after the president says he wants to shut down every coal plant in America. The White House still trying to spin that one away, but the Democrats are not done with foolish comments. Their solution to Americans struggling with 40-year high inflation is to eat Chef Boyardee.
What have you done and what do you plan to do to help solve our inflation problem?
Yeah, well, I grew up in a family where, if the gas price went up, the food budget went down. So by this time of the week, we'd be eating Chef Boyardee if that budget wasn't going to change, right? So that's what families have to do.
And with comments like that, it's no wonder Democrat strategists are making dire predictions like this.
I'm a loyal Democrat, but I am not happy. I just think that we did not listen to voters in this election. And I think we're going to have a bad night. When voters tell you over and over and over again that they care mostly about the economy, listen to them. Stop talking about democracy being at stake.
Okay, so what we've got now, Greg, is a president who comes out and says, I'm going to shut down the coal mines. And then Karine Jean-Pierre comes out and she says, the truth is, I am not going, or the president's words were twisted. And then he comes out today, they let him out again, and he decides that he's going to say there's not going to be any drilling. Yeah. Why did they let him out?
I don't know. Well, I want to say I'm so excited. We are a day away from the end of democracy. And I have been putting all of my energy into destroying this incredibly fragile system of governance. I'm just so thrilled. You know what I did today? Oh, it's fantastic. I put up flyers all over my neighborhood saying the election was canceled. Then I set up a voter registration booth at NYU, and I took all their information and I threw it in the East River. Anyway, I get it from Joe Biden is that he doesn't care what he says. There are two kinds of lies that we've seen in the last 4 to 6 years. When Trump fibbed, it was always about a salesman's fib. It was like trying to get you past the sale. You're going to love this. It's going to be so great. You're going to be bored with winning. That was his lie. It was an exaggeration of an affirmation. With Biden, it's a political lie. He can contradict the very same thing he said before. He could demand the oil companies that they step up drilling and then in the next breath say there's no drilling because he doesn't believe in anything he says. He's been in politics for so long that words don't matter. He assumes that we all have tiny, tiny attention spans and that he can say whatever he wants. And then you got this guy talking about Chef Boyardee. Boyardee, is that what it is? Yep. Love that stuff. By the way, cheap food's great. But then how long before the squad says, you know what? That Purina cat chow with a little water, it can go a long way with a family of 4.
But you know, Dana, the whole idea of Sean Patrick Maloney in the 17th, Hudson Valley, he's going to lose to Mike Lawler, a state assemblyman. This guy is ahead of the DCCC. He says, well, when things are tough, we ate Chef Boyardee. He didn't leave it at that. He said, maybe it's time for you to start eating Chef Boyardee. How clueless are these Democrats?
I think you could, if you could put the entire election cycle into one clip, it would have been this one about Chef Boyardee.
Yeah.
Because he is in charge of getting other Democrats elected. This election is about the inflation and the economy. And also because voters keep saying, I don't feel that the White House, the president, actually cares about what I care about. And not only did he say to eat Chef Boyardee, let's go back a little bit. Remember, John Kerry told energy workers, just get a green job. They said, oh, well, gas is high, well, then buy an electric vehicle. That was from Mayor Pete. Right. They said, let me just look at my little notes here. You know what? They want to let them bike to work, put on a sweater, basically, because the heating oil is going to be so high. It's not just President Biden that has said this or Sean Patrick Maloney. This is like a strategy, which is why Hillary Rosen, a longtime Democratic strategist, is saying, wow, we are in bad shape.
Yeah, the truth is, Jessica, that the Democrats are now recognizing that they're in bad shape, in terrible shape. We heard it in the original sound, Hillary Rosen being another person. And now Fetterman today is talking about the economy. Why all of a sudden are they now listening? Why were they talking about everything else?
It's been a few weeks. I mean, basically since the turn on the Dobbs decision, where that was the second or third most important issue, and then it shifted over to crime, and people were even talking about jobs and the economy, and then inflation as its own issue. Democrats have been talking about this. It's a little late. I think Hillary rose in maybe too far into the doom and gloom. I looked back on what the usual number of House seats that are lost in a midterm election is. It's 27. So we'll see what happens.
But where
there.
are you starting from?
Yeah.
I don't think
understand
that's
it's a
fair.
slim majority.
I know that the White House is going to try to spin it that way, but I don't think that's right.
Well,
Okay.
we have to. Everyone is going to vote tomorrow, or maybe you already have, I already have, and we'll see what happens. This is not, people are partisans today. Even independents are partisans to some
Hillary
degree.
Rosen isn't a partisan. Jesse,
Yes,
I'll
she
go to you.
is.
Look,
she's one of the biggest partisans in America.
Yeah, but
she's paid to be partisan.
She is recognizing that the Democrats are not listening, and that will come
And I've said
tomorrow.
that myself, but we also must note, which we do every time we talk about elections, that Democrats are proverbial bedwetters when it comes to elections, and we completely flip out. And I want to wait and see what the
All right,
election
good. We'll
tells
wait until
us.
tomorrow. Jesse,
Okay.
80% of America thinks that we're headed in the wrong direction, okay? That's a given. Now, 49%, 47% believe that we need a great deal of change. And then 19% thinks quite a bit of change. So the way I figure that is almost 60% are like drastic change. How will that translate tomorrow?
Well, if you're on MSNBC anchor, those polls are rigged, and you can't believe what the people tell you. You're going to see a massive wave tomorrow, and it's been building for a very, very long time, and I don't care if I'm raising expectations. I'm speaking from the heart, and you can feel it.
You don't have a heart.
I just pretend not to have a heart to come off as cool. I'm actually much more compassionate than you are, Greg. When you see Joe Biden say that, that's why Joe Biden got lucky in 2020, because he didn't have to campaign because of COVID. Because when Joe goes out and campaigns, he sticks his foot in his mouth every single time. And what he did there is they had a whole argument for a year about who to blame for high gas prices. They had Putin. They had Lenny that owned the corner gas station that was
I was
running
like,
up.
who is Lenny?
They blame ExxonMobil for you're not using up your leases. And he takes a hand grenade and throws it right out there and says, I'm the one that's not approving new drilling, and blows it up right there. Now, we expect politicians to lie. That's a given. But we expect them to keep track of their own lies.
Yeah.
Then there's Chef Boyardee guy. He's head of DCCC, so he's supposed to be the smart one.
Yep.
He's not supposed to come out and make a squad gaffe like that. We've been waiting almost a year to hear what Democrats are supposed to say about inflation. That's what they're supposed to say, eat Chef Boyardee. That's not like, okay, this is what we're going to do about inflation, and here's how. This is, we don't have a plan, you deal with inflation.
Yeah.
You eat cheap slop. Same thing they say with crime, remember? We don't have a plan to reduce crime. Just pop out your earplugs in the subways so you can see the criminals coming at you.
Yeah.
And then the other woman says, democracy is under siege. You know what is the biggest threat to democracy? Democrats not representing their own people. That's the biggest threat. You're supposed to go out there and represent the people. It's a representative democracy. Imagine after 9/11, George W. Bush came out and campaigned in that midterm on entitlement reform. And the country's dying to talk about terrorism. And he's like, no, let's go with entitlement reform. That's what the Democrats are doing. The two biggest issues, crime and inflation, they're not talking about it.
Okay. Up next, Democrats say if you vote against them tomorrow, democracy will die.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here.